Imagine walking into a room and instantly feeling the energy drain from your body. No, it's not a haunted house. It's something far more common and just as unsettling. It's the presence of a toxic person. These are individuals who can turn a bright day gloomy and a confident stride into a weary walk without even saying a word.
Welcome to Level Up Stronger. In today's episode, we're not hunting ghosts. We're identifying and learning to disarm the real-life ghosts that haunt our daily lives, toxic people. From the narcissist who loves to steal our spotlight to the passive-aggressive colleague who leaves a trail of backhanded compliments, we're diving deep into the world of external toxicity.
But here's the twist. We're not just going to talk about them. We're going to learn how to reclaim your space, your peace, and your power from their grasp. Are you ready to turn the tables on toxic personalities? Stay tuned, because this episode might just change the way you navigate your world.
I think last week we talked about the work-life harmony, right? One of the things that I think plays a huge pivotal role in your ability to have work-life harmony and balance is the people who you surround yourself with, right?
So true.
Unfortunately, in our daily lives, we often run into these toxic personalities, whether they're at home, they live with us, they're at work, they're out and about in society, and they often take a huge toll on us and our ability to find that harmony. So today I want to go through like all of the different personality types that are kind of the most common, how they show up in our lives, and what we can do to kind of combat some of the things that they do that causes us to be unbalanced and out of harmony. So the 5 top toxic personality traits were the narcissist, the manipulator, the victim, the passive-aggressive, the gossiper. The other thing I thought of this morning, I was watching a TikTok, and it's the people who monetize fear.
Oh.
And it's pervasive in our culture,
Yes.
and it's sneaky. So you don't think of them as toxic people because they are pitching themselves as someone who's helping you.
Right.
And I'll go into more detail on that, but that was what I wrote down this morning because I saw an ad this morning and I was like, the light bulb went off.
Well, that's the MO for most of mainstream media presentation as well as politicians.
Right.
Fear mongering, right? You manipulate people through fear.
Well, and unfortunately, this particular person who you and I have both probably given time and money to is monetizing fear. And the reason the light bulb went off this morning is the slogan is almost identical, but a different set of words to the same fear-based message that they've been projecting out into society for 2 years now.
Oh, no.
Just with different words. Like they're monetizing fear. Yep. And I bought into this, and I thought, how bloody toxic of this person they know they are a master manipulator at a high level.
Yeah.
That you're utilizing people's own insecurities for your personal gain. And I get that and it's guised as I'm helping you and I'm giving you all this stuff for free. And then I'm going to turn around and ask you for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And I thought, I'm starting to think maybe this is a toxicity that we've allowed in the name of self-help to be pervasive in our society because people are so afraid to just go live their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Psychic vampires, people who feed off other people's energy like that as well. That's one of the tactics they use, the same thing. They'll turn the most positive thing into something negative and fear-based so that they can get you and then I'm going to help you. I'm going to save you from this fearful scenario by you giving me your money and then I'll tell you what to do and how to take care of this and how to deal with this. I think that's really insidious way of manipulating people.
And the reason I think that the light bulb went off for me this morning was because I know we just had our last episode about work-life balance. And so I started following this particular individual during a time when I was dealing with a lot of personality types that were those 5 toxic archetypes.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was struggling with dealing with those types of people that was in turn causing disharmony and unbalance between work and life.
Right.
And then this person comes in and they say, oh, well, I can help you get past all of that, right? Not realizing that person is also manipulating me and trying to control how I spend my money
Yeah.
and praying. And I know, and it's a very mainstream person. I don't want to say the person's name because again,
Yeah.
I don't want the, and I did learn a lot over the last couple of years. So I'm not discounting everything that I've learned,
Right.
but there was a connection. Like the dots connected this morning for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that there's kind of a fine balance around that too, I think, Tiffany, because, as human beings, we grow one of two ways, really. We either push ourselves away from things that are negative, that we don't like, that we are make us uncomfortable, so we don't want to be around that anymore. So we push ourselves off from that, right? Or we draw ourselves toward a dream, a vision, a possible future that enlivens us, that enriches us, that makes us feel expansive and growth oriented. And so to me, those are the two main ways that people grow. And to me, what you're talking about is they're using that first scenario. They think that like, "Ooh, I don't want this. I don't want this in my life anymore." And they're kind of preying on that desire, and then, like I said, kind of creating a savior complex sort of idea. It's like, "Oh, well, I can save you from that negative scenario if you do what I say, or take my workshop, or give me the money to do this or that, or whatever it might be." So there could be some genuine intention, good intention
Mhm.
behind it,
Sure.
but I'm with you that I don't like the idea of promoting that kind of fear-based mentality in order to draw people in. To me, that's disempowering to do that.
Absolutely. And maybe that's just that particular person's hook to get you to pay attention.
Right.
And I do believe that the person has good intentions in general, but it's
Yeah.
they're also monetizing that. I mean, at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're being marketed to. So, I mean, that was just a side note because I do think that we should talk about that because I think that in society as it stands right now, there's a lot of people who are popping up who are supposedly self-help gurus, right?
Right. Right.
And we kind of live in that space because we do mentoring and
Right.
counseling. I mean, you've
Right.
been counseling
Coaching.
for 30 plus years,
Right.
right? And
True.
so I worry that a lot of people who have jumped on this bandwagon to help people find work-life balance and get past all of their roadblocks and things like that are in fact some of these toxic personality types, and they're only out to take your money.
And sadly, there's some truth to that because I think in every industry, you find people who take advantage of a trend or a current thing that's happening,
Oh yeah.
and they don't have the best intentions, but they just hop on the bandwagon, and they don't have the integrity of the people who actually are really genuinely trying to help others and empower them,
Mhm.
but use the phraseology, the terminology, and, you know, present themselves that way without the substance, right? Without really having anything to offer that actually makes a difference.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I struggled with that a little bit. So we'll get back to that
Okay.
probably at the end because I think there is definitely something that has to be discussed there to help people make sure that they're not jumping into something expecting someone to solve
Yeah.
a problem with a relationship without them having to put in any work and effort. Because
Right.
these five personality types take a lot of effort in order to understand one, how they're impacting your life, but also how to set appropriate boundaries
Correct.
around these personality types who exist because you have to coexist with some of these people. Some of these people
Yeah.
who are toxic personality types are your family members or people at
Correct.
work, and you
Right.
don't get to choose necessarily. Or you may be stuck in a situation where you're having to deal with one of these types of personalities.
Right.
Probably the one that's the most widely used and potentially the most misunderstood because they a lot of times pull from a lot of different tactics is the narcissist.
Yes.
This personality type is characterized by an excessive need for admiration, disregarding other people's feelings. They're unable to handle any criticism and they have a sense of entitlement. often the narcissist employs various tactics to control and manipulate their targets. And so it's really important for us to understand the behaviors and how you can recognize who these people are in your life, because narcissists are crafty in how they go about controlling the people around them.
Yep. And of course, they're always right. Their opinion is the only one that matters, right?
Yep.
And small things become grandiose. Like it's a big deal that, they took out the trash. It's like it's your job to take out the trash. That's what you agreed to. Why should I be making this big deal about you taking the trash out? It's that kind of thing, constant attention and validation for even everyday mundane tasks.
Sure. I struggle with this one a little bit because I think we all have a little bit of a narcissist in us, because the narcissism and the ego kind of are hand in hand. But there's what we're specifically talking about today is the people who are classic narcissists who are really trying to control everyone around them for their benefit.
Yeah, because I think there's a difference between, you know, acknowledging your own value, your own worth, and what you have to contribute, and having a healthy self-esteem and self-worth, and being a narcissist where you're basically trying to manipulate other people and taking advantage of them and getting their energy and their feedback in order to make you feel better, which usually because it's coming from you having a low self-esteem. And that's why you're doing that in the first place. If you felt good enough about yourself and honored who you were and accepted your own abilities and strengths and power, you wouldn't need to take it from anybody else.
Absolutely. And one of the tactics that the narcissist uses often is gaslighting, which is basically psychological manipulation, where they make the target doubt their own memory, perception, or sanity around an event that occurred, and also try to trivialize the feelings of that particular individual, twisting information in favor of their narrative of how the story went.
Correct.
Like
Yeah.
like you weren't there. Obviously, you were there, but you weren't there, and so you don't understand
Right.
how it really went down. This is where they try to retell the story
Yeah.
completely different light than
Yeah.
your perception. And if they're really good at gaslighting, they'll have you believing
Yeah.
their version of the events. And often the narcissist will use things like love bombing, where they are excessively affectionate. They want to give gifts, and they, try flattery to win you over, to gain your trust, to get in your good graces, right? But this behavior often shifts dramatically once they feel like they have your control. Then they're going to flip around and start gaslighting you again.
That's exactly what happened to me in a relationship like that. All that love bombing at the beginning and all this praise and, oh, you're amazing and flattery. And then we started to, move forward as far as a friendship. And suddenly things shifted very dramatically once he felt like he had control over me. And I'm like, it's insidious again because you're not quite sure what's happening at first. It feels good to get that acknowledgement and recognition, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a minute, none of that was sincere. That was not true. It was just a way to try and pull you in, right? Get their hooks in. Another thing that tactic that I know narcissists use is isolation, is right
Mhm.
as well. They try and isolate their targets from family, from friends, from other support systems, and they also might criticize the relationships that you already have or situations that make it difficult or uncomfortable for the target to maintain those relationships.
Absolutely. So essentially, they're gonna compliment you, isolate you, and then make you think that the entirety of what happened, the events, are different than what you thought. And so a lot of times they'll also use a tactic called triangulation, which involves bringing a third person into the dynamic of the relationship. And we've had experience with this with a person, creating a situation where the target feels jealous, insecure, inferior. So they bring a third person into the friendship or relationship.
Right,
And next thing you know, they're trying to create a situation where there is the ability to be jealous,
right,
create competition for the attention and affection. And thus, you are further keeping your target focused on the narcissist, because
right,
their goal is to be the center of attention. And what
right.
better way to feel like the center of attention than to have multiple people fighting over you?
Right, exactly, and they're placing themselves in the center like, "Well, I'm the one that can resolve this conflict," which they created,
Correct.
because you have to go through them in order to create this resolution of this conflict. I mean, yeah, crazy. Another thing they also do is projection, right?
Yep.
Narcissists will often project their own negative behaviors or traits onto other people, onto their target. Like, for example, they might accuse their target of being selfish and manipulative when that's exactly the traits that they themselves are projecting, that they are being selfish and manipulative. And when you call them on it, they're like, oh, but that's you doing that. You're being selfish and manipulative, not me.
Yeah. My favorite is when they tell you that you don't communicate effectively, when in fact they're the ones who don't communicate at all.
Right, because they will withhold information to be able to start, to play their different games with that information to be able to manipulate and control the dynamic of their relationship and how it's flowing, right?
Yeah.
So that they can be in charge.
Yeah. And often the in charge becomes monetary for the
Yeah.
narcissist,
Uh,
especially if there is any monetary gain or if someone has financial independence. A lot of times the narcissist will use financial control as a way. I also heard something the other day because a lot of times you would expect a narcissist to target somebody who is actually weaker than them. But the reality is actually often the opposite. The narcissist sees someone who is a dynamic, independent, strong willed person as an even bigger challenge
right,
to overcome. And
right,
so a lot of times you'll see somebody who in a relationship where you have a narcissist on one side and somebody who's very prolific in their job or the career and whatnot on the other side. The narcissist is challenged even more by getting that strong-willed person under control.
you're right. It's like a greater challenge. It's a greater win for them if they can get them right.
Absolutely.
Or the tactic they use in doing that is be constantly criticizing and belittling the target, right? Regularly criticizing or belittling or devaluing the target's opinions, achievements, or aspirations to undermine their own confidence and their own self-esteem so that they keep going back to the narcissist again. I've had this experience happen with me actually as well. When I was involved with someone who was working on a project with me, and I would bring up ideas I thought were really amazing and valuable to the project, and he would poo-poo them, and then a couple of months later, he would present them as his own ideas and say how
Mhm.
great
How often that happens at work too.
they
Interesting.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
Many times the narcissist will also play the victim and they portray the victim. They love the sympathy. They love to
Uh,
manipulate the situation.
uh,
They are the injured party because
yeah,
they love the drama of and the attention that that gives them.
right, exactly right. "Oh, look at poor me. It's all being done to me." Again, taking no responsibility, no personal responsibility for their actions or their impact that they're having on anybody else. It's just that constant like, "Oh, I'm gonna flip it now so the attention goes back to me again." Another thing that they also use, they call intermittent reinforcement, where the narcissist, they may alternate between positive and negative treatments and comments. That unpredictability, that creates a sense of uncertainty, right? And dependency for the target on the narcissist who also they're coming to cling to the hope of returning to better times when things were better. It's like, oh, but they never devalued in the first place. It was just part of the tactic, just to make this positive and negative back and forth. So it keeps the target unstable, right? They don't really have a sense of their feet being grounded that way. So I think it's really important that that we understand all these targets, these tactics, and it's crucial to recognize when you might be in a relationship with a narcissist, and it's important to especially to set really firm boundaries, to seek support from your family and friends and people that you trust or professionals, and to navigate and potentially exit such a toxic situation if you can.
Well, and sometimes it takes a while to really understand the true motivations that this person is, in fact, narcissistic because they will
True.
hit all of those points that we just talked about at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And sometimes they will reveal only bits and pieces of that throughout history, right? And so you could be
True.
in a relationship with someone for years and hit certain parts of that or maybe parts of that personality are more prevalent than others because it's not like no one walks around thinking, oh, I'm surrounded by narcissists. I mean, I mean,
Right.
in general, we think the people that we have in our sphere of influence are decent people, but the patterns are generally there if you're looking for them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the keys to avoiding getting too enmeshed in that is becoming self-awareness, right? Being conscious of what's happening around you and noticing when things start to change because they will start to change once they start to exhibit some of these traits. There'll be that shift in the way that they're treating you or how they're behaving towards you or how they're talking to other people about you.
Mhm.
All those kinds of things it'll start to change. So that self-awareness, but also I think it's maintaining that level of your own self-confidence and recognizing your own strengths. And it's like, okay, yeah, and weaknesses as well for that matter, but recognizing that this is how I operate, this is how I work. And, if the person doesn't like that, then you can find somebody else to work with rather than trying to contort yourself to meet their needs or their desires or whatever they're trying to project onto you.
Yeah, I think it is vitally important to set really solid boundaries and don't let the boundaries move because
Uh,
I just ended a friendship with someone who was all of those things. Classic narcissistic behavior. Although I tried to put boundaries in, I didn't always keep the boundary as a hard line in our friendship. And so the boundary kept getting moved and allowed to get fuzzy. And so I feel like then that led to much more hurtful ending to the relationship than was necessary because I didn't have those clear boundaries and then stick to them. Because with a narcissist, they're going to keep trying to push the envelope. And it's not that they're a bad person, it's just their personality
right.
to do these things. So, like,
Well,
it,
there are tactics that have worked for them in the past, and so they just keep doing them,
correct.
and assuming it's going to work again.
And the only
I,
person you can control is you. So
right,
I in the relationship, the only person I can control is me and the
right.
boundaries that I set for how we're going to interact. And if something's making me uncomfortable, then I have to maintain that boundary. Because if I don't, then really if the fallout is my own fault at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I had a similar experience with one of my friends I was really close to for a number of years as well, and the narcissist, and then everything started to slowly fall apart as these personality traits came forward, and I realized, oh, okay, this is something else is going on here, and I kept, giving him the benefit of the doubt and this kind of thing, and I even confronted him about it, and he went into a classic denial mode, and then also just didn't care. He was just like, oh well, yeah, I confronted him with these negative behaviors, and he's like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Like, oh, so you've heard that before, meaning you don't care. You're aware of what you're doing, and you're not having no intention of changing. And so then I started putting up even stronger boundaries, like you mentioned, because I didn't do that at the beginning.
So narcissists are often will show up or traits and personalities of the narcissist will also show up in the other five major personality traits.
Correct.
The next one I want to talk about is the master manipulator, who's adept at influencing and controlling others to their advantage, right? Which the narcissist is really good at.
Yeah.
So they often will lie, deceive, use guilt, exploit others' weaknesses, and they almost always have a hidden agenda, and will often feign concern in order to achieve their goals. Their
Yeah.
whole goal in life is to manipulate. So, like the narcissist, and maybe they really are the same thing, they have a range of tactics that they use to control and influence their targets. So, their methods are often very subtle. I think we are all taught from a very early age and infants from infancy how to manipulate. Little kids, babies will cry to get what they want. So like this is
Right.
something the manipulator or manipulation tactics are something that we learn from the cradle. But when sometimes it goes too far and it's when you are I think have a hidden agenda that hurts others that being a manipulator is a really toxic thing.
Yeah, because you could argue that any influence that you have on anyone is a form of manipulation. But
Absolutely.
I think it's more the intention behind your communication, what it is that you're doing, why are you doing it, and what is the goal you're wishing to achieve. I think that's more the key as far as a filter goes, like you mentioned. Because we are taught to do that, it's like, "Oh, if I behave like this, I'll get this." In
Correct.
a way, that's a form of manipulation, but manipulators, like you said, on the other hand, are, they're more subtle in what they do. It's like one of the things they like doing is playing with on emotions, right?
Yep.
So they're skilled at detecting and exploiting other people's emotional states. So they may use guilt, fear, sympathy, or influencing someone's decisions and actions. Like they might make someone feel guilty for not helping them, even when the request is totally unreasonable and would put that other person out in tremendously. But they'll make you feel bad because you say no and set your boundary.
Absolutely. And again, there's boundaries again. So that's
Boundaries.
an important part of that. Manipulators will also use deception and lies in
Yep.
order to just get what they want, out and out
Yep.
lies.
Yep.
And they're going to omit the crucial information. So these aren't just like little white lies. They're going to, purposefully omit major details,
Right.
exaggerate facts, and fabricate stories to mislead whoever it is they're trying to manipulate.
Yep. I remember I had a experience like that. There was this woman in high school that was like master manipulator like that. It was always about lying and deception. And one of my tactics that I would deal with that as far as a way to mitigate that is I would get the person she was telling me lies about in the same room with the three of us at the same time. I said, "So did you say this? Is this what you said? Is this what's happening here?" So I would confront in the face of the person they were lying about, right? Or telling the
Mhm.
fabricated stories about. And then they were caught. They couldn't keep the deception going any longer because we were all in the same space at the same time. Because that's one of the things that they also do, I noticed, Tiffany, is manipulators will try and kind of similar with the narcissist, they'll kind of isolate people, right? I tell you one story and I tell you another story, and then you both have to come to me to find out the real deal because I'm the one that knows everything, right? So you come
Yep.
back for it's that kind of thing.
Because
And
you can control the story.
right, you can control the narrative that way. Speaking of which, and the same exact thing, when you do confront them, a lot of times they'll pull the gaslighting card, just like the narcissist will, right?
Yep.
Trying to make you doubt your own perceptions that, oh, you didn't really catch me in a lie. That was just me, I just didn't remember it properly. I misspoke. It's like, no, you were purposely doing that because your aim was to try and sow dissension, right? To try and make me, other people, and myself feel bad or doubt our version of reality. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, and I think also often the manipulator will also withhold attention or ignore anything you don't
Yes.
want to hear.
Yes.
This isn't just like I ignore you because I don't know what to say to you. This is they're purposefully withdrawing attention in a very strategic way to control how the situation goes. So you might get upset with someone about something, and the manipulator will completely ignore what it is that you're upset at, not even communicate with you, disappear, gloss over it, pretend it never happened.
Right.
Um, because it doesn't comply with their wish and give attention to what they want and are or reinforce the behavior that they specifically are looking for the outcome of, right? So if I ignore it, it doesn't exist, right?
Right. Exactly. Kind of head in the sand sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And also, I like to use, the using confidants, telling other people, pulling other people into like a spy network, as it were, or what they call flying monkeys. Sometimes you make up rumors, things that have no factual basis whatsoever to try and turn other people against you. I had an ex boyfriend that was like that with me. When we broke up, he was very, really vindictive and was trying to spread rumors about me throughout the community. And he was the newer element. I'd been in the community for many years. And so my friends were like, well, that doesn't sound like Ken to me. I don't think he would do that. And and so they would bring it to me to like come and say, "Do you know this is what's happening?" And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, no, that's definitely not true." But it's that kind of thing, right? They try and do that to create that again that sense of power over others. Basically, is what they're doing.
Well, and that makes them the injured parties, and then everybody gives them the empathy, right? And
Right.
so then they're the person everyone should believe. So by getting everybody running around and getting everybody on your side,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
And I think that's really important as far as dealing with the manipulators in your life too. Again. self-confidence, right? To maintain your own, know who you are and what you do, and your own integrity of how you behave with other people.
Yep.
But also the establishing those boundaries again, like we talked about before, being really firm about that, and also relying on factual data, not what other people are saying, not what rumors, not what, well, she said, or this, she said, or they said. No, no, no. What really happened? What's the real deal? Go to the source and find out factual information rather than emotional responses to the rumors or stories that are flying around.
Mhm.
Again, seeking support from people that you trust, that have your back, that are honest with you,
Yeah.
that be upfront with you.
My all-time favorite tactic of the master manipulator is they'll come to you and tell you something, or that somebody said something negative about you, but then they won't ever tell you who.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
left like, okay, well, if somebody has a problem with me, then why don't they come talk to me? Why are
Right.
you
Talk to me.
over here spreading like you're not like you bringing this information to me makes
Yes.
you party to the problem,
Correct.
and you won't tell me who it is. So now I can't go address the rumor with this person who's spreading. You are continuing to spread the rumors.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you a shitbag too.
Yes, and that's why they won't tell you who it is, because you would go confront them and find out who was saying, and they would find
If
out they were probably not saying that.
Absolutely. And if somebody has that big of a problem with you, it's not your problem. It's their problem.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, and I've always been the kind of person, this is the way I'm wired too, but if you have a problem with me, just come say something to me. Just, tell me. Even if it upsets me, I'll get over it. I'll deal with it, but just be upfront and let me know what's going on, right? And then we can move forward, we can resolve the issue. But when you don't when you can't confront somebody directly or ask them what is really going on because of all this manipulation in the background, that just feeds the manipulator basically, and nobody else. Doesn't serve anyone else.
Absolutely. And I think because we all walk around with an ego, right? So we all have some built-in insecurity, and we're very sensitive to someone been trying to manipulate us.
Yes, they are.
It makes it really difficult because somebody's running around spreading lies about you or ignoring you, or it hits your ego.
It does. But you
It
know what? You
hurts.
can't manipulate people who know how to think for themselves and who know who they are.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
Wow, what a journey we've embarked on today in Level Up Stronger. We've delved deep into the world of toxic personalities, uncovering the traits and tactics of those who might be holding us back. From the subtle manipulations of a passive-aggressive to the draining drama of a gossiper, we've covered a lot of ground. But we've discovered that this topic is vast and rich with insights. There's so much more to explore and discuss. That's why we've decided to extend our conversation into a two-part series. This ensures that we give each aspect of the attention it deserves and provide you with the most comprehensive strategies and tools. In our next episode, we'll continue this fascinating exploration. We dive deep into how we can not only identify these toxic influences, but also empower ourselves to rise above them. Expect more real-life examples, expert insights, and as always, practical tips to help you level up stronger. So stay tuned, and don't forget to join us for a second part of this enlightening discussion. Remember, overcoming external toxicity is a significant step towards personal empowerment and growth. I'm your host, Tiffany Letterly, and I can't wait to share more with you on Level Up Stronger. Until next time, keep pushing forward and keep leveling up.